boy, did I hurt some feelings with this one. Let's talk about it. So, I have never, before this last episode, encountered anybody that ever thought the bullnose looked good. Everyone I had ever talked to, everyone I had ever hung around, did not like the bullnose. I've had 2 OBS Broncos before this one, 93 and a 94, and I have always liked the OBS front end and thought it would look great on here, which it does, in my opinion, which apparently is the only opinion that thinks this is good. But everyone is really upset about this. I won't say upset, heartbroken. That's okay. Trust the process. Maybe at some point it'll grow on you. And if it doesn't, it'll still be awesome in my eyes. But they're worried about this mismatch here, this fender and that fender. They don't match up. But if you've seen some other things, like the OBS Chevys, crew cabs, where the door line does not go through the cab to the back, that's factory screw up. And if you ever seen that, it'll stand out like a sore thumb every single time you see it from that point on. I think that is terrible. I think the early 60s F100 with the fleet side bed, where the bed doesn't even look like it belongs on the truck, I think that's terrible. So I understand where people come from with this mismatch here. I think it's subtle, personally. I think you'd have to look at it. You'd have to really look at it and know what you're looking at to know that there is a mismatch here. But hopefully we can church it up a little bit and get some of you back on our side. Probably not, but that's okay. We're still gonna do it. We've got some headlights for this thing. We've got vinyl floors, new badges, and I pulled out the drive shaft, took it over to the drive shaft shop, see if they could rebuild the CV, and they told me $800. What? And I told them I'd come pick it up, and I ordered one off the internet for $300. So that should be here soon. Right now it's only front wheel drive. That's okay. We just need to go from here to in there. But we've got some stuff to make this thing look a little bit better. And I don't know, these headlights may lose some more people. First things first, let's get a cold start on this guy and get inside. I did a lot of tuning on here, but we won't really know until we get it out on the highway whether it was good or not. Some of it was pushing the timing way up. I think I gave it 18 or 20 degrees initial, up to 36 cruise, 32 for wide open throttle. Some of those things. Anyways, that'll help it be more responsive. I also reduced the temperature enrichment because it was like 10 to 1 for the AFR when you would first start it up. Like right now it's still chilling around 12.9, 12.8. So I need to pull a little bit more out of it as well. And moved around the IAC and stuff like that. So there's some playing around to be had. Change the table sizes, change the base fuel, move some stuff over, and right now it's doing a lot of adding to fuel on the base table. So as it learns, we'll keep moving stuff over and leveling it out, so on and so forth. But gotta lock the hoods. So we are front wheel drive only right now because I pulled the drive shaft out. So we'll go 4 high and pull her in, lock the hoods. Woo, 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 woo. Yeah, gotta love it. Oh, that was fun. And we're here. Thanks for the trip. Let's get started. All right. So what we're looking at here is changing out this whole front end. We need to, there's a reason I painted this black, and it's to match the headlights we're putting in. And here's where I might lose a whole bunch more of you. Mosquitoes are already after me. That's awesome. Is that I need to get rid of these floppy things. And I've always always been a proponent of factory looking headlights. However, in this case, I'm going to have to agree with my cousin. These headlights I got outside, I think are going to look really good on there. And they bring a lot of modern to this chapter that we call now a Frankenstein Bronco. So these guys here are from Alpha Rex. Saw them on D-Max Rhino's channel. He threw some of these on that Duramax. I'll put a link in the description for him. Check them out. These guys here, not the 4 projectors. They don't look like this. Stick with me. We're getting there. These things, Alpha Rex USA, these headlights are going to look really good on here for a couple of reasons. Let me present to you the new headlight. I told you they'd hate it. That's okay. Just bear with me. Stick through the video. Maybe you'll come to love them. I personally like the Raptor style wraparound daytime running light. Also, it's a secondary as a turn signal. So these are going to go right in here. We're going to have to reuse this outer shell. That's okay. I'm going to paint that as well, so it'll be black. The whole front end will be black. We'll see what it looks like for a little while. They're not sticking with me on this one. We'll see what it looks like for a little while, and then maybe we'll switch to painting that white and that white so it matches the front. Maybe even paint the whole rest of it in that tan, desert tan color. Haven't got that far yet. So these are the headlights. AlphaRexUSA.com. Give them a check out. These are really high quality, little expensive. Just a warning, but they're really, really high quality. This is not some Chinese junk you'd find on Temu. Okay, so in order for all of this to work, we're gonna have to take apart the front end again. And well, let me show you. I don't think they're on board. Yeah. I hear you. No, I'm not swapping it back. Leave me alone. It's gonna be good. It'll be good. Relax, they'll stick around. So this grill's got to come out first. I like how the white paint on the hood dribbled down onto the front of this and already stained it. That's cool. Whatever, you know. The grill's got to come out, and then these bezels will come out. Most of the stuff behind here is broke. That's okay. We're going to use the screws holding these corners and this portion to this bezel. We'll screw into that to hold this bezel in that headlight. And then that headlight will go in and bolt in down here. And then it can be adjusted with a screwdriver down here. We'll show you all that stuff when we're done. First, we need to get these off so we can get the other stuff in. This thing is pretty wavy. Maybe we can heat it up with a heat gun at some point, get the waves out of it, but it's under the hood. I mean, like, who cares, right?
I care, Winston. I care.
Man, you guys are a tough crowd today. That's okay. We'll keep pushing through. And a screw down here. Typically there would be another screw, but that whole back portion's broke off. Bam! Bada bam! So there's held in down here and up here, and there's pins that hold that stuff in. Little plates. That's okay, because we'll most likely end up just pulling this core support off, depending on how much I want to get into taking all these screws out. But first we'll take off the bezels, and then we'll look at that, or we'll just pull the clips on the back and call it a day. Woo! All right. This headlight bulb's out of there. There are 2 bolts that go on the back side here to keep it in place. This side, as you can see, it's still in there on the inside. But we'll take that out. It'll be okay. You'll be all right. It's these screws that we need to reuse. The 2 on the top, the 1 on the side here, and the 2 on the bottom. Those are what's going to bolt to this new headlight. But first, we're going to take these out when I get that other one out as well. And we are going to clean this, maybe get a little buff sand up here, and then we'll spray them black, let them sit in the sun for a little while, and we'll continue this journey. Also, a good time to mention, today is Friday. We were red on Friday. That's to remember everyone deployed. There is always somebody deployed somewhere in the world from the United States. Remember that they are abroad and that we support them with everything they do. Go to Amazon, go to any website, search Red Friday, find yourself a shirt, make an effort to wear one on Friday. There are some on my website, but I'm not pushing you to go to my website to get them. Just find one and support those that are deployed. So while we're waiting for all that stuff to bake out there in the hot sun, and hopefully not get all fingerprinted up when we bring it back in here, I need to switch out these plugs because although the plug outer portion that mounts into the marker lens is the same from bullnose to OBS, the plug for the light bulb is different. And so the plug for the light bulb is going to be this 3157. There's another designation with the H. I don't know. There's so many bulbs that are exactly the same, but they have different designations from different companies. This one, written on it, 3157. It has been a long time since I've changed any bulbs on any of my Broncos, so I'm going with that. If I think of anything else or see anything else, I'll post it up here so you guys can see it. But it needs to be this type of plug and not an actual brass bulb that slides in and twists in and has the 2 points on the back. That is not going to be the same for you guys, whoever has the OBS and is going to swap with these headlights. They will just plug right in. This is just a hassle I have to deal with because I converted to bullnose. I know. People in the back are saying, we should have. I know. But I'm doing it. So we're going to swap that out real quick with this plug, and it'll be real quick. They're all the same wires, and it'll go right in. Now, I'm sure it's going to be hard to see. You probably won't be able to see it down here, but there are 2 clips down on the inside right here that hold in the top portion. And then there are 2 more clips below that. One that should be able to get on this side. Actually, I'm sorry, there's only 1 more clip on this side down here. You pop those clips up, and this should come out. There is a snap ring plier that works well on this, but I'm hoping we can just get them popped up and pulled out without too much hubbub. Martha, fuck. They have been in there quite some time. Alright, may have to do the whole snap ring plier thing. Okie dokie, I hear you clucking, big chicken. Well, these will maybe possibly fit down in here. Wish I could give you guys a better view of this, but it is what it is. There we go. So this is what we're looking at. It's just a snap ring holding that in place. Get yourself some snap ring pliers. It'll save you some time. Now getting the bottom one on this side, that's going to be impossible. My goodness. Pretty sure we don't have to reuse these. Fairly certain. I will say that one thing I've noticed so far with Alpha Rex is that their instructions are fairly vague. However, I am somewhat illiterate and didn't read through the whole thing, so maybe there's something I needed to know in there and I didn't read it correctly. Anyways, that's where we're at. And getting this last one down here, I just don't know how that's going to happen. Got it. And these are junk. They're broken, so we'll junk them, I guess. That gives us better access to all this business. I can finally seal off these plugs. Now, as I said before, I'm going to swap out this plug. Not that you have to. That's what I'm doing. And then we'll get back to where we were going. So the plugs are all swapped out right now. For me, again, you won't have to do this if you have an OBS to begin with. It does come with a daytime running lamp harness. I'm going to show you what that looks like so you can decide whether or not you want to do something like that. For this rig, we're not going to hook up this harness. We don't need it. In some locations, some areas, it's required to have daytime running lights, but here it is not. So this is the daytime running light. That's the activation. Cycles through, and then it stays on. That would stay on anytime the ignition is on. It would stay like this and it'd stay on all the time, no matter what. So when we turn that off and we go inside and turn the headlight on, we'll just turn it to park first. That is park. See, it goes through the same activation and it stays in this way. I wish the parking lamp was yellow. You can't change it, unfortunately, or I don't know how, and I haven't figured out how. It's not in the instructions anywhere at all. But anyway, so this is what it's like with a parking lamp. You can see it has a parking lamp light on the side as well. And then we'll switch to a turn signal. That's your right turn signal. And then headlights on. Now these projectors are really good. They are very, very bright. Try not to point the camera directly into them, but that'll work out very well for us. And the reason I don't want to hook up this daytime running light is because all I got to do is pull back into the park lamps and I get the same effect. And I don't have to do it all the time. If I'm sitting in a parking lot with it running and the headlights off, I don't want daytime running lights blasting through the parking lot and I don't have a way of turning it off. So that is the function of the light and a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. We're at a point now that if it's dry enough on the bezels out there, we'll go ahead and bolt them on and all that business. We're not going to use this harness. We'll save it for another day. Maybe at some point we'll put it on, but it's very doubtful since, like I said, we can just as easily turn on the park lamps and get the same effect. And these original plugs for parking lamps will not get used. We can just tuck those away and down and underneath the battery tray, out of the way, never to be seen again. Not needed. Take the bulbs out of them so it's not lighting up in your fender well unless you like that sort of thing. Weirdo. So now what we got to do is I got it on the bezel. Didn't get many fingerprints on it. Looks pretty good so far. This bezel is really chunked. It's all right. This thing's going to be going through trees and everything else. So we're not going to worry about it that much. Now we just need to plug this stuff in and it's going to slide up in there. We'll hold it in with the two top screws and then we will put the bolts in the rest of it. Shazam! Tuck all this business back in there. There we go. Put the two screws in the top for funsies. Woo! Almost scratched it. Yeah, okay, all right. Let's get the nuts on the back side of this thing and we'll be good. Comes with 2 nuts per side because the other 2 will work also as well. Except they sent me one that did not finish getting crimped. So there's that. Cool. Came with 3 nuts, not 4. 4. Cool, 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 cool. All right, that is in. Let's take a look. Now, obviously, we've got some contrast between the rest of it not being in there, but I think it looks pretty good. And with the other black grill, it might look good too, but I have a feeling this will all get pulled back out and swapped over to white around the outside. That's what I have a feeling is going to happen. We'll see what happens, I guess. You know. Ooh, there's some dry paint on here. Needs a good wash. Ooh, yeah. Needs a little wash. Anywho, ta-da! Now the black grill fits in a little better. Ooh, hopefully that wasn't expensive. And it looks a little better. Front end is still low. A little later we're going to try and swap out those springs and then we'll cut a couple of rings off of those springs to get them to the right height that we want. I don't think they'll be too heavy for it even though they're off a motorhome.
Obviously, it is totally.
I think it should be a good compromise.
Definitely not.
Especially when we're going to end up going through some dirt obstacles at fairly high speeds and you need a higher spring rate for that. But all right, let's see what it looks like with the parking lights engaged. All right, okay. I like it. I like it. I like it. It looks good. Side lamps are subtle. You know, honestly, when I first looked at these headlights and something similar to this, I thought that this was going to be obnoxious. It was going to look terrible. But it's subtle and it's not too AutoZone-y. I think it'll look good driving around and all that stuff. Plus we'll actually be able to see and we're not using like 90s headlights up against Escalades and getting vaporized by their high beams. So good. Let's see a turn signal here. All right. Okay. I like it. I like it. I like it. Other side. Okay. let's kick on the bright stuff. I don't have hazards in this truck. There's not even a switch for it or a button or anything, which is odd, but it is what it is. I don't even know where a switch or button would be for the hazards on this thing. Anywho, it doesn't have one. Let's turn on the lights. Shazam! We're not going to adjust these until we get the front end level, but that looks pretty good. Just like that. Let's kick it to high beams. High beams engaged. Oh yeah. Yep, that'll work. That'll do just fine. Like it. I love it. I want some more of it. Cool. All right. So that's the Alpha Rex headlights. They look good. I like it. The black grill, it's kind of a lot. We'll probably switch that out, like I said, to white. I've said it about 4 times now. Maybe I'll actually do it. It looks good that way. The white may throw it in to look like 2 black eyes in there. I don't know. Maybe we'll do some Photoshop and see if we can make it look white and then go from there instead of painting it. But alpharexusa.com. Did not get these for free. They did not send them out to me. Like I said, I saw them on D-Max Rhino's channel, and they looked really good on his truck. And as a matter of fact, I think they look really good on this truck. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Be gentle. It's got feelings, you know. Anyways. That looks better, huh? Yes was the right answer, in case you were wondering. Oceanfront property in Arizona. Okay, all right. You good, good. Cool. Well, we can't do much else today because everything else is still in the mail. It's supposed to show up tomorrow. Whether it does or not, we're to be determined. I've actually got the oil and the filter, but we'll just save that for tomorrow. We'll get the break-in oil out of this thing and some fresh 2050 VR1 for flat tappet pushrod engines in this bad girl. That should bring the oil pressure back up to what it's supposed to be. See you in the morning. Hope you stay. I'll miss you if you don't. Welcome back. It's been a couple days. None of my parts have showed up, so we're just going to move on and do things we can do, which happens to include yanking these springs out and leveling the front of the Bronco. Yeah, that sounds like fun. So we shouldn't dwell on it, and we should just dive in, not considering anything or what the spring rate is or anything else. We'll just jump right in. So anytime you mess with steering or suspension or anything else, these are the parts that did show up. The ones that I need did not show up, so those will just chill for a second until we get everything else done. But anytime you're dealing with twin I-beam, twin traction beam, or anything like that, I guess it works for control arms as well, just not as much of an issue. So when you move these vehicles, if you do not end your movement with a forward movement of greater than like 20 feet, the chances of the suspension sitting where it normally sits while driving is going to be 0. If I back this thing up any amount of feet, let's just say another 20 feet, back it up, because the front is towed in 1/8 of an inch for driving, it will drag the front tires and pull the front end down, and you'll get a squat look with the front tires. Now when you pull back forward, they push up and it brings the suspension to ride height. Now if my tie rods for any reason were towed out and I backed up, it would lift the truck. It's just the way it is. So you want the vehicle pulled forward at least 20 feet and stopped if you're doing any kind of measurements or any kind of adjustments to suspension. So what we want to do with this, we want the back to match the level of the front, leveling the entire truck, because the fender wells are different-ish, barely different. We could still measure from the bottom, the ground down there, up to the fender well and then ground here up to this fender well to give us an idea if we're using the fender wells as our visual base for level. But it has this giant line that runs down the entire length of the truck, and that gives you a visual level. And so that's what we're going to use to see if we're getting to a level point in the truck. There's only so far we can go with leveling or lifting the front suspension here before we start getting too much camber. That is an issue with I-beams. As you bring it up, the arms start to swing down and you get a ton of positive camber. And so that's an issue that we would correct with some ball joints, and it has adjustable ball joints on the top, so we could correct it. But again, there's only so much you can do, and you start getting bump steer and everything else. So we will level as much as we feel comfortable with. You can usually get about 3 inches-ish before you need to start correcting the geometry and get in drop sections for the I-beams, as well as a drop for the track bar and a drop pitman arm, so on and so forth. But we're going to go ahead, and since those springs look much longer than these, once we get these out and get those out, we'll be able to know for sure. But we will just cut loops off of the spring to get the right height that we want. And we can turn the spring, and we have an unlimited amount of adjustment as long as we don't go too far. If we go too far, then we're just up creek. So let's go ahead and get a measurement front to back using that line I told you about, and see just how far this front end would need to come up to be level. And we'll start there. And then we yank the springs out of that thing over there. How is there still mosquitoes in here? Dude. So we'll go right over the axle. And of course, this has got a ding in it right here. We will call this line 40 1/8 is what I'm going to say. You don't want to go behind the pivot because it's really going to screw up your measurements. At the pivot is the most accurate measurement. Anything beyond, it'll drop when you raise the front, or it'll raise when you raise the front, so on and so forth. We're calling this one 43 3/8, 2 1/4 inches. Yeah, 2 1/4 inches. Needs to come up in the front. I think we can do it. I have faith. Before we get started, I can already tell that we're likely going to have to make some adjustments to the ball joints because we've already got just a little bit of positive camber without even touching the suspension, and it's got to come up 2 inches-ish. So there's that. That is one thing we're going to have to work around. This would be why twin traction beams and twin I-beams are so sought after as far as off-roading goes. The amount of travel you can get out of these things, the cycle is crazy. And they ride really well compared to a straight axle on leaves. Anywho, let's take a look at the difference in these springs. Tell me if you can guess which one is the factory Bronco spring and which one came out of the motorhome. Right. So anyways, we're gonna stick those guys in the front, uncut, see where it lands us, and then we'll trim down from there. and we'll see where we can get. The tricky part about this is getting it to a point where we can lock the spring in place, because it's going to want to turn. So what I'll have to do is when we get this to the height that we want, because this little bend here, this is the retainer, keep the springs from spinning, and there's a little plate that goes over the top of it. Once we get it to the height that we want, we will heat up a very specific portion of this spring, and I'll lay a wet rag around the rest of it so we don't take the spring out of it. Heat up a very specific portion of the spring to bend it around and make that joint.
Yeah, right.
So it sits in there properly. The right way to do this is to buy the right springs. We're gonna try the Shady Tree style first, see where it gets us, and then go from there. Sound like a plan? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. What? Yeah, we're experimenting, remember? So we're gonna back this thing up. It'll settle down a lot. We knew we were gonna have to cut, so just how much to cut is where we're gonna go with this. So back up, it'll settle, and then I'll pull back forward. Okay, so it didn't settle at all. Anywho, so we got a lot of cutting to do to get this down. Yeah. We may actually be able to go to the same height as these. This is going to be a lot of trial and error. So that's where we're at. Let's give it a... first we'll cut off an entire rung. An entire ring off, and we'll go from there. That's quite a bit of distance, so we'll start there, keep on rolling. It came down a couple inches, so let's back it up and pull it forward again, see if we've got enough camber out of it now that it'll settle down some. I have a feeling we're gonna have to take at least another rung off of here. That one rung, I should have measured it beforehand, but it's really hard with the way the camber is to get a good idea of how much it's gonna drop per rung. Anywho, took one rung off the top of both sides. Let's back it up, pull it forward, see what we got. So I saw it settle quite a bit when I backed up in the front end. Still a lot going on here. We'll measure, but I'm pretty sure at least one more rung out of both sides, and then we'll have to deal with camber and the ball joints. 44 and a half. 34 and a half. Or 43 and a half. So it got some tilt. Still an inch high on the front. We will take, man, I'm tempted to just take a half a rung and see where it sits. What do you guys think? Quick, make a decision. Gotta go now. It's really hard to come back. We'll do a half a rung and see where it gets us. I need to try and move that starter somehow. With the Ford, they have a fitment ring in there on the starter, so it fits right in there, and then the holes go in. There's really nowhere to move it around. If I could just loosen it and just get just a millimeter off of it, maybe it'll stop hanging. Okay, tons and tons of positive camber. Cool. All right, let's measure. 43 and a quarter, so over an inch. That is 43 and a half. So we go down just a quarter inch in the front. Now, granted, maybe some driving around and stuff like that will get that front end down, but the camber is kind of, that's an issue. Let's back it down off the ledge over there, bounce it up over the ledge, and then take a look at it out there. So it looks a little bit high in the front, just on looks. Maybe we can come down another half a rung and just leave it alone, and that'll get rid of a lot of camber, and it'll still look like it's up in the front. We were down 2.5 inches, I think is what it was. The front was down compared to the back. So I think if we did another half a rung, that'll get rid of a lot of that camber, and will bring us within range of being able to adjust those upper ball joints to bring in a lot of that camber, as much as we can anyways. We can give that a try. I won't be able to test drive it until the drive shaft comes in, but it's up. It is definitely up. Okay, going for it. Take another half a rung out, and then see what we can bring out of the ball joints to straighten that up. But it's hard to tell. Is it just me, or does it look like it's up in the front some? Gotta commit. All right, one more rung out of the front. I don't know. Maybe I should try and get what I can out of the ball joints first. Well, I think that's as good as it's gonna get. We'll measure it up here in a little bit. It is down just a little bit in the front. Here's before and after. What do you think? It definitely came up. A couple of things I did is the pivot bolts for the twin traction beam down here, loosened them up so that it would spread out as much as it possibly could. We'll tighten that stuff up. You can see it moved now maybe a couple millimeters, which could be a lot of camber once it's pushed out in this direction. These cams are maxed out. Might be able to take it to an alignment shop and they can get more out of it. We got a couple of degrees here, which we can manage with for a little bit, and maybe once we're driving around. The springs aren't going to settle necessarily, but they may settle in the perches and everywhere else, and they may give us a little bit more. But let's see what our measurements came out to, and I think it's about as good as it's get. It's definitely way better, way better than it was. And those springs don't seem too stiff right now. Able to push down on the front end of the truck with fairly little effort. But we took off a total of 2 rungs, or 2 rings, from both sides. And then once we are for sure that this is where it's going to sit, we don't need to take any more, or we're not going to do anything else, we'll heat up those top of those coils and bend them in flat so we can use the retainers. Right now the shocks that hold it in place it won't hold it in place for off-roading. They'll want to spin and come out or settle and sit on either side in the wrong position. So we got to put those retainers back in there. But yeah, so I think that's where it's going to be. It's kind of funny with the black in the front. Another day. So, okay. Let's tighten that all back down, reconnect the shocks and the sway bar, and then it'll be good. So we got an appointment to go get some tires. It's getting some 33s. That's why we needed to make a little bit of room. They can fit 33s, 1050s with little to no issue at all. When you throw the 1250s on there, they want to rub on the radius arms when it goes to full scrub and full turn, full lock, whatever you want to call it. They'll rub on the radius arms, and that becomes an issue, especially with 35s, that it really just drags into it. You got to get bent radius arms to clearance them, plus you start hitting the body and stuff like that. So 33s are safe for off-roading on a factory Bronco with maybe just a leveling on the front. All right, let's tighten this all down. It's still a lot of camber, and we'll just see how it goes and start working on all the other stuff. Woo! So I got a little carried away, started doing a whole bunch of stuff. All the front end is tightened up. It's all good. I fixed the hub over there. It loosened up again. What I needed to do is unscrew the actual knob itself and screw in the thing that goes in and out. Screwed in a little bit further so it didn't pop off the end. Anyways, it's fixed. I fixed it. That's all I know. I don't know the nomenclature for all this stuff or anything else. It's fixed. Also, I fixed the steering column, took out the automatic steering column, junked it on the floor over here. It's broke. So basically, not only did it not need to be in the truck because it's automatic, and we ended up taking out the automatic, but this thing had been, the steering wheel had been cranked over without the key, and it broke the housing on the inside. So that's the issue there. But I even picked up all my tools, so that's all good to go. But this is what it looks like now. Doesn't have an automatic appendage out here. Got the hazards on the bottom, which work, surprisingly. But everything else works just as it should. We're all back in business. Okie dokie, smoky dokie. It's Ford tilt life, you know. It's as tight as it gets. I don't know why you guys didn't complain. There, it's good. Sorry about the headache and the motion sickness from me swinging around the camera. Good to go. Ready to go. Just need the drive shaft. Oh yeah, I got the key button on here now. There we go. Just needs the drive shaft and the vinyl floor. And then we can get all this put in and all that business taken care of. Hopefully it shows up tomorrow. That's all we got is hope. I don't have anything else. We need to put that entire box of crap inside here. So I just hope it shows up tomorrow. Anyways, there's the Suns game. Deuces. Well, hello there. How are you? Good, thanks. It's been about 3 weeks since that last portion of the video, and a couple of things have changed since then. Well, that was rude. No, I just shaved my face. Also, ooh, ah, and ooh, ah. And it drives like dog. So, it's not a drive problem. All this is great. Although I need to cap the other hole in that throttle body because I still can't get the idle down low enough. Beside the point, our makeshift lift with the motorhome springs is a bust. Drove this thing to go get the tires put on, and it drives like a stagecoach. Who would have thought? Anywho, that's not good. Can't drive around with that. It's not even remotely enjoyable. So, we bought a lift kit for it.
What?
Now don't get ahead of yourself. It's only a 2.5-inch lift kit, but that's all I want. 4-inch, 6-inch, sure they look all right. Whew, I'm winded. But it's not ideal. Can't get it in the garage. You can't get it anywhere that's got a bunch of overgrown trees or anything else like that. 2.5-inch lift with the 33s is when you're trying to do trails and all that kind of other stuff. Really don't need that much more. Honestly. I had 4-inch and 6-inch lifts on my other Broncos, and they look really cool, but they're not super functional unless you're trying to go mud bogging or you just want to look cool. So 2.5-inch lift, that'll correct all our geometry. It'll get the truck up nice and level. There's a good chance with the weight of the engine we won't have to put the blocks in the back. Obviously, we're going to evaluate that. But that's what we're going to do right now because the vinyl floor showed up and it's laying out in the sun because it needs to relax, bro. It's way too uptight. It needs to just relax so we can throw it in. Also, we got some badges for the fenders. Not throwing those on anytime soon. Here's why. Pulled the old badges off and, well, paint came with it. So maybe we'll figure out what we want to paint the front here or the rest of it or any of that business. And then we'll throw the badges on. But right now, we'll just leave them off. Let's throw this lift kit on. Should go on pretty easily. Yeah, no, probably not. So what this lift kit entails is that I got the optional steering stabilizer. Always a good idea. It's going to have drop-down radius arm brackets, and it's going to have drop-down pivot brackets, and coil springs, and shocks, lift blocks, U-bolts, so on and so forth. So the easiest way, and I've done a couple of these lifts on these, and it's difficult. Lots of angles and stuff like that, plus lots of drilling usually. We'll see how this kit goes. Rancho, for their 4-inch lift, it's one cradle. It's a whole cradle that goes up there and the pivots bolt in, and then you got radius arm drops, and sometimes they come with radius arms. So there is no drop. Just depends on what kit you get. This cost about 500 bucks. So, not bad. Affordable. Never heard anything good about Rough Country, but when I was putting lift kits on, it was about 15 years ago, and so all the reviews say that they're doing great. They're the kit to go to, so we're going to give it a try. And what we want to do first is we're going to pull these wheels off, and then we are going to disconnect the shocks, droop the suspension, pull those old motorhome springs out of there, hook up the new shocks to support it all, and then we'll drop the radius arms, and then we will do the pivot brackets. This to me is the easiest way to go. Keeps things from binding up. If you drop the pivots first, then you got the whole thing flopping around in there. It's just not great. So that's the way we're gonna go first. Hopefully there's no frame rivets that we gotta cut and knock out, because I don't have an air hammer in here. Actually, I don't have any air in here. So yeah, hopefully it's bolts. It's probably not. It's always rivets. Don't worry, we'll get it figured out by sundown. Probably not. shocks are in. They look pretty nice. The shaft on these is substantially larger than the ones that came off of it. I think they were some like Meineke or some cheapo brand. But anyways, so those shocks there are going to support this entire system. Next, we're going to take out those radius arm drops. Pretty sure. I got to double check to make sure that's what we're doing. Most kits come with that drop. However, look, rivets. Let's not freak out. Let's make sure that we even have to take those off first. Does in fact have radius arm drop brackets, so it reuses that mount. So we're going to break out the die grinder here and see if we can get these rivets out relatively easily. I don't know. I think I'm going to be hammering on this thing for a long time. But anyways, we'll get those rivets out. This will go up in the place of it, and then the factory one will bolt to this underneath and on top. And that's how we'll drop the brackets with that one. Okay. Sweet. Well, a radius arm bracket only took an hour and a half, so I think we're on a good roll here. It's just the rivets. Grinding out the rivets, drilling the holes, just a pain. It's a real pain. But the bracket is on, drop back bracket is in place. That portion is done. That'll make it easier to do that pivot back there. So this side is ready for the pivot, essentially, which is all the way over there. And we're gonna have to drill a lot of holes. But that's okay, because I'm pretty sure we don't have to do any more rivets for that bracket. Pretty sure. Just keep on trucking. All right, well, passenger side of the lift is done. Got the coil in, shock absorber, rear drop bracket, pivot drop bracket is in, and that is pretty much all that is part of this lift kit. Now, I'm gonna go inside, eat some leftover meatloaf, and ponder my life choices before I go on to the driver's side. We're getting there. We're getting there. So I've pondered life's choices, and think we're good to go ahead and keep going. However, now I'm so full I can't move. Desperately need a nap. But I'm going to keep trucking, and we'll go ahead and skip forward, but I'm going to finish this side, and then we'll get the wheels and tires on and see how level we are and if we actually need the blocks in the back. Ooh, more parts. Sweet. Be right back. Well, I thought I was going to settle by backing out, and it did not settle at all. I feel like this thing is sitting as tall as my 4-inch kit was. It is 1000% going to need the rear blocks and an alignment. Now, these springs should settle, but I don't know that they're going to settle that much. I ran out of daylight, and the vinyl is already hardened up because it's nice and cool outside. So we're going to definitely have to wait to put that on. I don't know. That's a lot of settling down. Okay. Rough Country's 2.5-inch lift is 4 inches. Got it. good to go. All right, I'm done for the night. My legs are sore. My hands are all beat up. And I don't feel like tackling the toe right this minute. So we'll wait to do it all another day. Hopefully not another couple weeks, but definitely another day. Well, I think I'm going to leave it like this. I backed it out here overnight to sit, and it is pretty close to level. And I think the front is going to still settle a bunch, because as soon as we exercise these springs, they should settle and it should be fine. Also, after I backed it out, noticed that smells like fuel, and that's because it is fuel. The gas tank is leaking. Yeah, so add that to the list. I left a nice little stain in here too. Anywho, so we'll get one of those coming. That'll get rid of the inline fuel pump on the side of the frame too, so I guess it was just meant to be that way. Pulled the seats out and I threw the vinyl floor in here just because it was sitting out in the sun and it's not good for it to sit in the direct sun because you lose all the shape. So I threw it in here. Now we just need to cut the holes to put this stuff in here, and then we'll get the seats back in here and that'll be done. And that's pretty much this is the longest episode I've ever had kind of thing. And it's taken me 2 months to put together. So let's go ahead and finish this crap. I agree. So the first bit here, we need to find out where this shifter is going to come through, and then we will fit that. But first I'm going to get this insulation set in here. Unfortunately, it's not hot enough in this truck yet. Well, it's not going to get hot enough in this truck today because the sun's going down. That is a problem in itself. Just need to figure out where this needs to go and then leave it. I wish that worked. Be nice. Okay, I think that's good enough there for that. We'll trim up by the gas pedal over here a little bit, just because it kind of comes over and across. It doesn't really fit that well in here, which I've never really done a carpet kit that does fit well, but fits well-ish. Finding any carpet kit at all for this thing was a blessing, so we won't look a gift horse in the mouth. You know what I mean? Okay, so we're going to flip this back over and we'll find the center, punch a hole in it, as well as the center for this, and punch a hole in it. And then that'll kind of give us an idea of where we need to go with all of this business. Yep. Yeah, that's what we'll do. It's not very bendy right now. Wish it had gotten a little more heated here. But we'll get it down in there. And round about where it needs to be. There. We'll call that hole number 1. Okay, that's that whole side in there. The sill and across. Most of this stuff. Somebody's hungry. Let's get that all tucked in over there and then put this boot back on. Well, all right. Don't judge all that too much. Like I said, it'll flatten out. We are all in, ready for the seats. Should be good. Looks good. It'll quiet it down in here quite a bit. Kind of wish we had the kick panel over there, but we don't, so we just live with that the way it is, and the rest of this will settle. All right, let's figure out where the seats go and put that in. And there we go. I didn't bolt in the center console yet because I'm cutting cup holders out of it, but everything else looks pretty good. all in place and nice, and should be nice and quiet now. But that is going to be the end of this episode, as I need to take this for a test drive, and I think that's going to take a whole another episode and see how well it does off-road. What do you think of the lift kit? Should we put the back blocks on? I'm telling you, I think this is going to sag, and we're almost level right now. What's your thoughts though? 3-inch blocks in the rear. I think that's going to be way stink bug. It's a little squatted right now, way stink bug with the blocks. Just my thoughts. What do you guys think? Headlights, lift kit, vinyl floor. What do you guys think so far with our 460 Bronco? We headed in the right direction? Wrong direction? Let us know. Sorry this one took so long to get out, and sorry it's such a long episode, but there's a lot of things going on behind the curtains, and there'll be more on that coming up very soon. But that's going to be it for this episode. I appreciate all of you guys. Make sure you go check out the merchandise. And as always, have fun.